صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة وعبرة كل مؤمن ومؤمنة ما خاب والله من تمسك بكم، وأمن من لجأ إليكم. سادتي يا ليتنا كنا معكم فنفوز فوزا عظيما. قال الله في محكم كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ادعو إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن، إن ربك هو أعلم بمن ضل عن سبيله وهو أعلم بالمهتدين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد. What are the methods of reaching out to our communities today? 2017, are the methods still the same as we had uplifted them 50 years ago? Or the methods of communication with our communities, with our congregations have differed? How do we communicate with our communities, engage with our communities in a way that we make sure our communities' numbers grow and they do not decrease? We make sure we engage our community members in a way that their knowledge bases also grow and it does not decrease, that there are more people interested in coming to the masjid and into the community and being part of the community instead of leaving and losing interest. How do we keep our community safe and sound? And how do we bring newcomers to this religion and add more individuals to our community, the Muslim community? Are there new methods? This is a question that I have been asked since I have been here. And I am sure that speakers and the servants of Imam Hussein all around the world are also being asked this question. What are the new methods and what are the best methods today to spread the religion of Islam and to educate our children so they do not lose hope in this religion and lose interest in this religion? For we as Muslims, being the second largest religion in this planet, we need to learn from the number one largest religion on the planet. If you want to become number one, you need to see what number one is doing so you can learn the methods yourself and apply them and see how you can bring growth to your community and make sure you do not lose the numbers that you have. Studies show that churches today are losing 87% of their congregation. Ages 25 to 37 years old, 87% of them have left their congregations and no longer participate to any church. The next generation, after 37, the generation before that, 47% of them are losing interest in church and losing their congregation, and they're no longer attendees of their church and their worship place. These are huge declines when it comes to religion and the attendance of church in this country. Not just Muslims are facing a problem, but every single other religion is facing a problem. Don't think that only your children are losing interest in religion or losing interest in attending a majlis or attending the masjid. It is every other religion as well. But before us, they have made the initiative to find out what they need to do in order for them to keep their numbers and to provide for their community and provide for this generation of millenniums, which none of them are really interested in religion or attending a masjid. So what must be done? Churches today, most people today, most Americans today say that church isn't helpful. It does not help me in my everyday life. I don't learn anything from church. When I go to church, they just talk about the gospel. They tell us stories about Jesus Christ, but there is nothing I can implement in my life, in my daily life. When I'm going to work, when I'm going to school, when I'm living with my friends, nothing to relate to. This is why I don't think that it is helpful for me today, in today's era, in today's age, in making me a better person. There are other methods that I can use into becoming a better me instead of going to the church. And we can relate to this because our youth are also thinking this about the masjid. That what can I hear at the masjid that I could relate to? Usually the speakers will be talking about an issue that occurred 14 centuries ago, and they will not give me a solution to my life. Many of the centers that we go to, people are usually just crying, and that's their main concern. There is no message in my attendance for me to grasp at the masjid or at church. So this is another reason why people are losing interest in attending church or the masjid. A main concern that all these millennials are leaving. Children who were born from the 1980s till today, 82% of them have no interest. But the church understands this, and they understood that they need to bring new methods so they can protect their communities. Also, that churches are plateauing, meaning that they do not offer something new. They have been talking about the same issues for the past 50, 100, 200 years. Same thing within our Islamic centers and our congregations. People are plateauing. Centers are plateauing. They are not discussing current issues and issues that matter for us Muslim Americans in this country in this time of age. Children need to be taught about gaming. They need to be taught about sports. They need to relate to everything that you speak to and address to them. This is a place of learning, not a place where people come and plateau when it comes to thinking and thought process and building themselves into better individuals and better characters. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Thus, the first step they took, churches went high-tech, because all these millenniums, the generation from 1980, those who were born on the year 1980 till today, they spend most of their days on their cell phones, on their iPhones, or their iPads. Thus, even higher education today is being offered through podcasts, because they know this age group spends most of their time learning and educating themselves with this instrument, with this phone, with this gadget. So how do we take the church to them? We have come to an era, and we have reached an era that we need to take the masjid to the people, not bring them to the masjid. We need to take the masjid to them. Into their homes, into their phones. More than we need them in here. If you get them on their phones, if you get them on their iPads, on their computers, you will definitely have them inside attending a majlis in person. But today, this is where it starts, in your phone. Most churches today are going towards podcasts. And the most successful churches in the United States of America today are those who are most successful when it comes to social marketing. Their church and their sermons and their teachings of the gospel. Whoever has a better podcast and a better YouTube channel will have the largest congregation because more people can relate to them. In this country, they don't have to be in the city, in the state of Pennsylvania. Now you have opened your audience to much, much, much more people. But because of podcasts and listening to podcasts and certain reverends and speakers and motivational speakers, people are willing to leave their states and move because of that congregation. We also need to understand as Muslims that we need to be as updated as every other group of people spreading their religion. Today, if you go on podcast and you search Islam, if 1,000 podcast channels come out, only 2 of them are Shia. The rest are exactly the opposite school of thought of the Ithna Ashari belief. We are so far behind. We are so far behind. This is why we are losing numbers, and this is why we are losing our teens. And we are losing the generation that has to build a bridge for the next generation after, for Islam to stay in this country and for Islam to stay in the West. Right now, if you give your child a Game Boy, remember when we were 6 or 7, we had a Game Boy. Give that to this 3-year-old right now. He's not going to want it. He's going to throw it in the trash. He wants a brand new PS4 with, those goggles that they have right now coming out. This is what he wants. This is his era. This is what he desires now. And this is what he's going to be seeking after. Everything becomes out of date. Even the way we preach and the way we teach the Holy Quran and the way we teach the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa says, call to the way of your Lord with wisdom and goodly exhortation. With wisdom. We have to be wise in the way we present. Wisdom means that we have to study our scenarios, study the statistics, study the numbers of why these youth are no longer interested, why we are losing numbers within our communities. Why are people turning away from Islam, from the religion that they were born in? And why are not people entering this religion to a point that we should be number 1 as the largest growing religion, and we become the largest growing religion? And as Shia Ithna Asharis, that we are no longer a minority. We need to build enough that we become a majority. That's when we have prepared the coming of the Messiah. When we become a majority, and we have enough power and strength to uphold his government. But you also need to be up to task and up to par. The Imam will have the knowledge of this time. Isn't this what we believe? When he comes, he will bring something new that everyone will be surprised with. Today, wars aren't conducted by swords anymore. It's all in the internet. Governments are destroying each other through the internet. I remember several years back when it was very heated between Iran and Saudi Arabia, an Iranian hacker turned the whole banking system of Saudi Arabia off for a week. And that made their Saudi Arabian dinar collapse for a whole week. But this is the new mechanism of war today. It's all digital. It's all cyber. And this is how we need to get out to our children as well. Because they are living in that world. This is their new world. New world is the cyber world. You want to get information out to people, you have to get them into that world. You want to educate people, you need to get into that world. So what is the most effective method today? What is the wise way to go about this? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, and he says, and reason with them in the best manner possible. What are the best manners possible for us today? To preach Islam. To get Islam to every single individual in America, every single Muslim, whether young or old. But our main concern is the new generation. This generation that will hold the flag and take it to the next generation after. And for the beacon of Islam and the faith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi and the revolution of Imam Hussein to be passed to the next generation. The best and most modern ways, brothers and sisters, like I mentioned, is podcasting. Podcasting has become very big in today's society. Businesses are podcasting, organizations are podcasting, and people are making a fortune. If you're thinking, how can we make money for our community that we could grow? Start podcasting for your community, and you're going to start earning and generating money for your community. An average person who does a daily podcast or a daily YouTube, some earn from $100,000 to $12 million a year. Imagine giving your community $12 million a year if you have an appropriate YouTube channel and an appropriate podcast that delivers the message of Islam in a modern way. How many people listen to this? Why is this platform the new platform? It's the new mimbar. It's the mimbar of this age. We sit on this mimbar because this was the mean of communication at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. People would... Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi would sit on a mimbar so people could sit in front of him like you are, and he would preach to them. This was a mean of communication and educating. Today, educating and the means of education have changed. So the mimbar has to also change. It has to become progressive, based upon its era and based upon its time. 15% of all human beings around the world today are podcast subscribers, meaning that they listen to podcasts on daily basis. What's 15% of this world's population? That's 1 billion people. Do you not want to tap into 1 billion people if you were doing anything? Whether it was religion or business, or you were having a non-profit organization, whatever you were doing. You want your message to reach the most people. Right now there's only, let's say, 200 people sitting in front of me. Potentially, if this was podcasted, it could reach many, many, many more people. 15% of this world's population. And this number was given in 2015. So the numbers have been up much, much higher because the rate of the growth of this economy or the service or plateau are increasing by 20% annually. Substantial growth. You don't find growth in such marketing plots anywhere else. The traditional ways are no longer relevant. This means 112 million Americans, 12 years and older, listen to podcasts. Isn't this what we are worried about? Our children 12 and older? We want the message to get to them. We want these 12-year-olds to become Muslims at the age of 12, understand the religion at the age of 12. But you know where 12-year-olds are placing their brain and attention at? In podcasts. Because it's in their hand all the time. That iPhone is in their hand all the time. He could press a button, listen to someone while he's doing his homework. He doesn't need to go to the masjid and then go do his homework. He could multitask and learn at the same time. This is what people are doing. 67 million Americans listen to podcasts every week. Every month. 42 million Americans listen to podcasts weekly, meaning that they listen to 6 podcasts a week on everyday basis, 42 million. And that number is growing 20% every year. Now, do we want the message of Islam to stay in this room or for it to go to the next level and reach its horizons? We need to put it in the right vehicle, like we said yesterday, and follow the right system. The systems of today, they are the systems that matter. They are the systems that make change and make progress. You have to go with the flow or you fall aside. You fall behind. If you're out of date, no one's going to use you. And this is what's happened to religion. Our youth cannot relate. The elders plateaued because they did not live in this country like we did. They didn't go to school, elementary, middle school, high school. They didn't know what we lived by every day when we did go to school and live within the society. Our life experiences are much, much different. So if you want to educate a person that's much, much different than you, like Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wassalam says, إنهم خلقوا لزمان غير زمانكم, that they were born into an age different than yours and a place different than yours. So you cannot use the methods of back home or the method that your father used to upbring you. So we have to use the newest of methods. The best news, brothers and sisters, all these listeners are from 12 to 25. Wow. From 12 to 25. These are the people that we're struggling to bring to the masjid, have some sense knocked into them. That's where you need to reach them. These are the newest ways of bringing interest into our youth. They need to be able to relate. Just like the Christian kid could relate because he could listen to a podcast, the Muslim kid needs to also be able to relate and listen to a podcast. We need to have the same material, have the same tools for our children if we wish for them to build a successful and happy future and stay on this religion. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And then we also need to understand that 65% of human beings are visual learners. Oh, wow. They need to see and visualize something so they can learn. Most people do not learn by just reading a book. This is what science says today. This is what professors and educated people have studied about. They say 65% of people are visual learners. This is why YouTube blew up, because people would learn everything off YouTube. Kids are now learning to do anything off YouTube. Before, maybe he had to go read a huge book to become a mechanic. Now he just watches his favorite YouTube channel and he could break down a car and put it back up in no time. He could put up a computer, break it down and put it back up in no time because of his interest in the YouTube channel he watches. Because most human beings, 65% of us, are visual learners. So how do we get these visual learners to learn Islam? We need to create something innovative and new for our listeners. These are the new methods of today. This is what Islam stands for. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the Prophet of Islam, use the best methods of preaching, these are the best methods today. Are they not the best methods to do anything else? If you're a lawyer, you want people to know you aren't going to be passing out cards. Nobody does that anymore. If you're a businessman, are you going to be passing around cards? Nobody does that anymore. It's all digital. It's all digital. If you want to market your company, you have to go to an internet marketing company. This is why Facebook became so big, because he does $5 billion of marketing every year. People market their businesses all around the world, and this guy puts $5 billion in his pocket. Same thing when it comes to Google, same thing when it comes to YouTube. It's all about how we advertise ourselves. With the right advertising and with the right methods of advertising, you could sell anything. Thus, another study says that people who are normal podcast listeners and subscribers, 6 out of 10 of them, if a commercial comes on and that podcast channel is selling a product, they will buy that product. Because this is the right way of advertising and today's way of advertising anything. Even if it's religion. We have to get the word of Islam out. Get the word of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. We have to get it out to the world, get it out to the people. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi says, بَلِّغُوا عَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً. Even if you could pass on from Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi one verse, one teaching, that is enough. You're doing your job. Imagine if every single one of us, we used our brains and what we thought and what we understand, because every single one of us has his own taste, has his own flavor. And we made one podcast session. There is 200 people here. If each one of us dedicated one day and gave our perspective of Islam and the perspective of our religion on that podcast, that someone heard it, you're bringing someone else in. It becomes 201 and the numbers start to increase. Rasulullah doesn't say that you have to be the most knowledgeable to spread my religion. He says even if you know one verse of the Quran, one story from the Quran, one hadith of mine, get to a point where you can spread that. Get on a platform where you can spread that knowledge, spread that teaching, spread that verse from the Holy Quran, even if it's one. You know, just one story, you're still young, your parents told you just the story of Imam Hussein. Get to a platform where you could share that story. And another study I read by a professor, he was saying you could absolutely say everything on your podcast. This is how much listeners are in this system. That whatever you say, you will still have listeners. to a point that he had put into parentheses, even if you're, intoxicated and you're blabbering, you'll still get listeners. So imagine if we had made a good study and studied and wrote a script and presented something good enough, we would definitely also build a platform and present to people. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi also says, من دعا إلى هدى كان له من الأجر مثل أجور من تبعه لا ينقص ذلك من أجورهم شيئا. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi says, if a person teaches another person a benevolent act, teaches them a verse from the Holy Quran, teaches them a hadith regarding Ahlul Bayt, makes them better individuals, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them the same reward to those person that educated and changed their life. I taught someone to pray. Every time he prays, I will get thawab. I guided someone to the straight path. Every time he does something benevolent, I will get thawab. Some businesses, there are lifetime commissions. You guide someone to the path of Islam to become a better individual. As long as he is living, you are getting commissions from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this is the platform. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says it's easy. If you have one story, one message that you have learned from me, pass it on. And if one person takes that message and changes their life with that message, you will get the reward of that person, and then nothing will leave from that person's pocket. You'll both get paid. Is it that the best business that you want to get to? With Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Also Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi says, نظر الله امرأ سمع مقالتي فوعاها وحفظها وبلغها. He says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes special care for those people who do make the effort to learn one of my hadiths, one of my messages, one of the verses from the Holy Quran. They understand it, they make the effort to understand it, and they teach it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will illuminate that person's life. He will make his life joyful. He will make him happy in this life and in the hereafter. Now that we know today's platforms, the elders need to help the youth because they definitely understand the computer better than you. We need to give them the support. We need to give them the tools for them to build this platform to reach out to the youth of today. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always used to send his messengers as youth for the youth. All the messengers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala were youth for the youth, because that's what life stands for. That's who is fighting for life, the youth. They are looking for something. They are striving for something. They are the fire that has just been torched. Give them the tools, give them the means, and we have to see this new generation shine. If we want this religion to progress and not to plateau and to be innovative and progress to the future. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And through that plateau, Imam Hussein alayhi afdal salatu wassalam also has a message for every single one of us. Through this platform, Imam Hussein alayhi afdal salatu wassalam also has a message for every single one of us to spread. Imam Hussein calls every single one of us Every single one of us. He says, "Shi'ati mahma sharabtum adhba ma'in fadhkuruni." Oh my Shi'as, every time you drink some water, remember me and spread my message. Because I gave my life, so you have the ability to drink from the fountain of Islam. I handle thirst till the last moment, so you can drink the wisdom of Rasulullah. You can have the teachings of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Remember me and pass on my message. Shi'ati mahma sharibtum adhma ma'in fadhkuruni. أو سمعتم بغريب أو شهيد فاندبوني. Every time you hear of a martyr or a person who is madloom and under injustice, also get on a mic, get somewhere that your message is heard, and remember me and mention my name. We are all in debt to Imam Hussein. We are all in debt to Imam Hussein. For what he did for us, this is the way we give back. This is what Imam Hussein is asking us. This is how we give back. Every time you hear of someone that's oppressed, mention me. Get on the best ways of communication and mention my name. Get my message out. Get my name out to the people. Every time you drink water, remember me and tell those around you that there was a man by the name of Hussein, that he died thirsty, him and his family, in the land of Karbala. That he stood in front of an army with a 6-month-old baby asking and pleading for water. So you and I could sit here today and remember him. فأنا السبط الذي من غير جلم قتلوني وبجرد الخيل بعد القتل عمدا سحقوني ليتكم في يوم عاشوراء جميعا تنظروني. Only if all of you had been witnesses on the day of Ashura to see what they did to me, you would have never stopped spreading my message. You would have never stopped speaking of the tragedy of Hussein alayhi salam. He says, if you were there to see what they did to me, even after I had fallen off my horse, they commanded the horses to trample me. We have to get this message across, brothers and sisters. Use today's methods to get the message and story of Imam Hussein out to the people. Imam Hussein, on the night of 10th of Muharram, stood in the tent with his companions. After he had given his sermon and he had told them that they are free to leave his camp and that the enemy is only there to get him, to fight him, to kill him, and they are free to leave. And Imam Hussein turned off the candles. None of them left. Imam Hussein started to show every single one of them their places in paradise. Ya Habib, this is your place in paradise. Ya Aoun, this is your place in paradise. Ya Ali al-Akbar, this is your place in paradise. Ya Abul Fadl, this is your place in paradise. Joan, this is your place in paradise. Abbas, this is your place in paradise. A young man by the age of 12 or 13 stood there waiting for Imam Hussein to show him his place in paradise. After Imam Hussein finished his sermon, he told him, Ya Am, my uncle, how come you showed everyone's place in paradise but you did not show me? Why did you show Ali al-Akbar his place in paradise but you did not show me? And he runs out of the tent. He runs to his mother. His mother sees him. She tells him, Ya Qasim, what is wrong, my son? He says, today my uncle Hussein broke my heart. He showed everybody their places in paradise except me. And when I asked him, Ya Aba Abdullah, why don't you show me my place in paradise? He told me, "Oh my nephew, you are my wadi'a of my brother and I have to protect you. You will not fall tomorrow. Your mother needs you." Al-Qasim ibn al-Hasan cried and wept that night, but he remembered on the night of the departure of his father, Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, he wrote him a paper. He told him to open that paper when hardship befalls him. He opens that paper. He sees the message of his father, Imam al-Hasan. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Oh my son Al-Qasim, if you were to witness the 10th of Muharram in the land of Karbala with your uncle Hussein, do not show shortcomings in defending your uncle Hussein. Imam Al-Qasim runs and rushes to his uncle Imam al-Hussein. He gives him the paper. Imam Hussein sees the handwriting of his brother. He holds Al-Qasim and he weeps and he falls to the ground. Then Imam Hussein takes him to the tent. He shows him the belongings of his father, the amama of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, the sword of Imam al-Hasan. He rips the amama in half. He wraps his head with half of it and he makes him a kafan, a shroud. And he tells him, "Oh my son, how do you see death? How do you see martyrdom? Before you go, I want to ask you." He says, "Ya am ahla min al-asal." Sweeter than honey. Al-Qasim marches towards the enemies. He fights courageously until his sandals break. He ducks down to fix his sandals. Umar ibn Sa'd says, "By Allah, I will break the heart of his mother." He marches towards him and hits him on his head. Al-Qasim falls to the ground and calls upon his uncle, "Ya Aba Abdullah, Ya Am, adrikni." Imam Hussein rushes to the body of his nephew. He tells him, "Ya Qasim, it is so difficult upon your uncle to see you in this condition and not be able to help you. You call upon him, but he cannot aid you." And he sees him taking his last breaths. He carries him on his chest. Historians say by that time, the back of Imam Hussein had bent. He was struggling to take him back to the tent. He takes him back to the tent and he places him by Ali al-Akbar. One moment he looks at Ali al-Akbar. One moment he looks at Al-Qasim. He says to himself, "I don't know who to cry for, my son Ali al-Akbar or my son my nephew Al-Qasim." إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.